GearWebsites.com is your source for firearms-based playing cards and books. We also have mugs, shirts, and posters with designs that we've made live. Of course, we have patches. Every Friday is Free Patch Friday. We appreciate your support. Thank you for shopping at GearWebsites.com. And good afternoon, everybody. Who's joining us for our look at Instagram? Got the co-host came up and joined us. It's getting cooler, so he's hanging out up here again. We go live on Wednesdays, and we take a look at what's happening over on Instagram. And the goal here is to talk about some of the stuff that's happening over there, promote some of it, share some of it over here. And I was just listening to Patriot in the Dark's video. I think I can wiggle it over here behind the puppy. See me wiggling that puppy? So Patriot's got part one of 6 about communists on campus. So I've been listening to that, and I lost track of time here. So I am pulling stuff up onto the screen as we speak. So we go live on Wednesdays. We bring Instagram over here to YouTube, and we focus on what is going on with the Second Amendment over on Instagram. So if I can get it all going here, we'll eventually be rolling. We do this live instead of preparing this stuff off air and presenting it because well, this is more real, this is more fun, and we get the feedback from the audience, from people that are joining us. This is live, so you're not watching TV, you're not listening to the radio or reading a magazine, you're on the internet, so you've got the ability to wiggle fingers and be part of this whole thing. And the screen, what we're doing is digging into my Instagram account and then into my saved stuff, the stuff that I've linked to from other people throughout the week. And I'm pretty sure we ended on that duck. We'll end on this little duck coming up, feeding a little baby duck on the back of the mom. Little duck comes out, and then they start. I guess these are loons, but we're going to call them ducks. So that was the end of last week. Now we've got going on, we're talking about the Jacksonville sheriff. I think what I really liked is at the end of this, we'll play it, and at the end of this, what we've got, Coleon's perspective on it, I think was pretty sweet.
Well, we have to stop people that have bad intentions. Guns are, the story is always about guns. People are bad. This guy's a bad guy. If I could take my gun off right now and lay it on this counter, nothing will happen. It'll sit there. But as soon as a wicked person grabs a hold of that handgun and starts shooting people with it, there's the problem. The problem is the individual. Now, guns are a tool that people use to do horrible things. But it's the individuals that wield these things. So we are working hard to try to stop that. But in this situation, in this case, there was nothing illegal about him owning the firearm.
So that's always good, right? When we get that point of view, especially from somebody like, what was he, some kind of police sheriff? Well, he's a sheriff, that's why. We don't get that from police chiefs very often, but it's good to get that from an authority, right? But I think this is even better, and I kind of wish he would have led with this, but I think I can understand why he had to put it at the end.
Everybody uses the same type of gun to save a bunch of people's lives. You don't attribute the same ability to the gun. You don't treat it like a human. You treat it like a gun. You say, oh, that person saved all of those lives. And you just conveniently forget to mention the firearm.
So then standing here on the other side of this podium, he assessed these guns people. He didn't know what he did.
So that's the point, is that, they selectively accuse the gun owner when, it suits them, and then stand behind ignoring the gun when it was the reason for the stuff, that they take for granted. What do we got here? Volunteerism in Action is an account I follow, and as you can imagine, it's all about volunteering and the idea of people helping each other without a need of a state or a big giant organization. So this says socialism or a handful of highly subsidized corporations controlling the market, and it's the meme where Pam is saying they're the same thing. socialist subsidized corporations through government policies to control the market. This is a blueprint for every failing economy. I'm not a doom and gloomer, but it is an interesting perspective to think of the giant corporations that are often multinational, so they can jump to this country, to the nation that they want to, depending on what they're being accused of, or move their money around and threaten to move their money around. And that can be a whole nother level of I guess, manipulation of what's going on. So, nothing too political, just an interesting perspective. Try to move the camera here, watch the puppy as he gets disgusted. We got off topic of guns, so he got disgusted. All right, so let's see. We got victory in Tennessee. So, Gun Owners of America, coming up with their response to what happened in Tennessee. Tennessee General Assembly and special session without passing a red flag gun law. Right on. They got to post something. I like this kind of just general, respectful, useful, what do you say? Like, what's the word? Getting the word out. Often I complain about the organizations and the way they do it, but I thought this one was a pretty good one. And then it just explains over here that Tennessee can rejoice as the governor's legislative session ended without passing the red flag gun confiscation. And that was, a challenge because I think that happened out of session, right? That was a special session to try to push that through. We got Greg Sarge Shooting School, who's joining us live. Boom. This says, free event. Want to learn what happens when the police arrive after a self-defense shooting? Click on the link to sign up on Monday, September 11th. I don't know what this is. Oh, this is in real life. Thompson, someplace, maybe? Thomason? I don't know. 7 p.m. And then US Concealed Carry has a link on their site to maybe register for it. So it's pretty cool. And I think that aspect is often overlooked when people want to look at the fun stuff like shooting and think of the cool stuff like carrying. And then sometimes think of the stuff like the laws and when and why and how. People like to have that responsibility and understanding. And then once they feel comfortable in everything, they kind of stop, at least my experience. So when instructors and curriculums include what happens after a lethal force incident, then that's great, because first you just need to know what you don't know, right? So people that aren't even thinking about it and go to poor instructors or lacking instructors, beginner, novice instructors that are just there for the flash and sizzle, they'll overlook all of this stuff. And some of the most incredible experiences I've had in training experiences were that kind of stuff, where they blew my mind with taking it to the court. I've gone through court in some. So, and anyway, so that was years ago, and this is now, and I rarely see this, if ever. And good, and there's cop cars. It's always good to see cop cars, especially Chevy cop cars. Ford cop cars, excuse me.
I knew for a long time I've been shadow banned. I thought, how can we counteract this? My point of view, it may not be perfect, but this is what I want to offer you, and I hope you follow through with this and help me. And we can all help each other, is that sharing content, any content that you like to share on your stories. I know you don't want to saturate your feed, that's fine, but share on your stories. And I use the hashtag BATFE, Beat Shadow Ban, because I think it's important to bring awareness of what are we doing. Social media, and this is just my speculation, this is my belief, this is what they're doing, not only when it comes to firearms, conservative views, they're being shadow banned. And what they are doing is basically trying to change our behavior through punishment. So they're punishing me and many of you for what we believe, for what we do.
So Gabby's got a campaign going with Beat SB, like Beat Shadow Ban. the hashtag. So if you're interested in participating, spreading the word around, I recommend it. Here's the thing. This isn't going to solve shadow banning, right? This isn't, it's not like, I like to use shooting analogies. You don't buy a gun, buy the perfect ammo and the perfect sling for it, shoot one round and consider yourself an expert at that gun, right? Instead, you buy the gun knowing you're going to have to use it a lot before you become comfortable and proficient with it. And then you'll be able to use it for whatever the actual reason for it, maybe a competition or a hunt or whatever. So what Gabby is offering here as a competitor, as someone who understands that you need practice, and that one of the things we need practice in is working together. One of the things we need practice in is collaborating, right? So she's given us something to collaborate, something to work together on. We, as if we're going to consider social media platforms, if we're going to consider our ability to communicate with each other, regardless of the platforms, right? In and around the platforms, get the conversation and get the awareness out. We need to get practice at that. A lot of people encourage you to be an observer and encourage you to sit down, grab some popcorn, relax, smile, and pay up when you're done having a good time. Gabby is offering a constructive opportunity for us to challenge ourselves and get better at something. Working together, challenging the shadow bans, and using hashtags. These happen occasionally, sporadically, like randomly, but we're not limited to viral when the platforms want us to dance or when they allow us to dance. We're allowed to do what we want. Gabby is offering us an opportunity. You can ignore this or you can champion this. It's up to you. You can do what you want. Go to the next one. So I've mostly put this in here. This one's copyright in me. But TriggerCon is coming up, and that's a thing that started in Washington. It almost died because they were essentially anti-2A. They went and put themselves in a facility so that people couldn't carry, and then they had an event at a time, 2015 or 17. Back Haas was still around, so probably 16 or 15. They had this event and they tried to play it up, and it was a great idea. They were doing it at the right time and maybe in the right location in Washington State, but they did it in a place where you couldn't carry. And then they doubled down and did it again the next year, either out of spite or ignorance. Then it just did what you'd expect. It just sat there. And then it happened. And then I think it went out for a few years, and I don't know if new people have it or what, but now it's coming back, and now it is essentially trying to be, or marketing itself as a media day at the range in Kansas, right? Kansas? Yeah. So, definitely rebranding and changing it up, giving content creators an opportunity to meet with brands and whatnot. It's giving content creators an opportunity to do their thing, and in more ways than one. So this is an interesting event to see it develop and to see it still be there and to be relevant and to break ground. We know quite a few people that are going, and it turns out that Milspec Monkey, who's the original, there's 3 people that started doing video at SHOT Show back in 2007 and 8. Milspec Monkey was one of them. Military Moron and why can't I think of the other one? Because the other guy was more of a thing. Anyway, these guys were the only people doing video at SHOT Show. They were the only people with access. And then, of course, Milspec Monkey is also a guy who pretty much put morale patches at the level they're at today and designed most of the original ones that people consider just take for granted and rip off at this point. And then there's Ghost, and then some other guy. I don't know who that other guy is. But it's neat to see that Ghost and Military and Milspec Monkey are headlining TriggerCon. Pretty cool. They should have Gizzard up there as the other one, though. Yeah, Gabby is awesome. So I'm going to say hey to everybody that's out there. Brooke is out there saying Gabby's so great. Yeah, I think Gabby is awesome. And living it. We got Mike, 2A Advocacy in California. Thanks for jumping in and joining us, being one of the first ones. Well, the first one in here. RTAC also joining us before the show even started. Appreciate it. Unapologetically armed. And then where is RTAC? You're in Tennessee, right? And then unapologetically armed in Missouri. Brooke out in Connecticut. And Mike White, did I say California? I probably know where Roy is if I thought about it for a minute. I'm going to get it wrong. Am I going to say Missouri also? And then Gunmetal Guy, Texas, I believe. But thanks everybody for joining us live. If you're joining us and you're not saying anything, then you're really not joining us, are you? You're just observing. So I appreciate the people that participate in what we're doing out here. Again, that's how the internet works. Go back and forth. It's way better than the other stuff. So then we got Professor Yamane, who takes his students from his sociology class to the range to experience firearms and get some understanding. Says this is a picture of him explaining the red dot sight on a rifle to students who grew up playing Call of Duty. Range field trip year 9. So 9 years of taking kids who are going to sociology to the range to give them some understanding. Pretty neat. Then we get to gun policy, which is Firearms Policy Coalition. Why name yourself the same on anything, right? First name yourself something that's next to something else in the first place, and then just keep changing the name of it. Whatever. They're doing good stuff. Legal alert. In the case we are watching, not our case, but relevant, Reese versus ATF, maybe? A Virginia federal judge has granted class certification in a lawsuit challenging under 21 handgun sale ban. They issued a nationwide injunction against the law and stayed the order. So, which one is this? This is, I think I have it in the description of this video. Do I have this thing up today? I haven't even opened this video. I was caught off guard because I was over there watching Patriots video when we started this thing. I didn't even start a poll today. We should probably start a poll. This one is the Reese one. So this is the handgun ban under 21. Okay, I probably should put the state in there then too. So this is going to come back up in November 6th, according to my notes. This one is coming up on the radar on November 6th. You guys are joining? So we talked about TriggerCon. That his chicken senses kicked in, and he turned on the internet. The ATF is sending out a thing about this definition of engaged in the business, and of course we got FPC saying "fuck you" no. I don't know. Let us know what you think of the whole saying "fuck you" all the time. I don't know. Definitely a way to go. They're doing it, and are they trying to be more edgy than Gun Owners of America? Are they just assuming everyone's cool with this constantly? It's really difficult for them to do anything once they're hanging their hat on "fuck you" all the damn time. So yeah, it's going to be as effective as it can possibly be, I guess. But I guess they decided that it's important to fill that narrow gap of people that swear all the time at a national level. Oh, you're in California. See, I'm sorry about that. So, you know why? Because there must be somebody else from Missouri with a similar screen name, because I'm a dyslexic. So I've got to be conflating you with somebody, I guess. But looks like I got some of the other ones right. Yep, the audience is all over the place. I would say in a more like, I don't know. Yeah, definitely that'll work. Smith & Wesson product development team. I thought this was pretty sweet considering Caltech, is essentially copied constantly. They got copied by Ruger back in the day. They got copied by Smith & Wesson a couple of times now. I don't really pay attention to new guns, like, at all. You'd be surprised how little I pay attention to new guns. But I seen some gun, and I was assuming I was looking at a Keltec PMR 30, and it was a Smith and Wesson. So yeah, they constantly are horking off of them, which is funny because so many people don't like Keltec for whatever reason, and then not always the same people, but there's a whole group of people that dig Smith and Wesson so much. So anyway, I always think it's cool when a company can be, aware of the irony and then throw it out there to rub it in their face.
Ruby Ridge, Idaho. It happened before Waco, and for many, it's an even bigger rallying cry.
We're talking about a cabin made by Randy Weaver and his wife on a mountaintop. Randy Weaver was not a guy up there sawing the barrels off shotguns and selling them. He only committed this act after talking to an ATF informant.
U.S. Marshals had been staking out her parents, who were vehemently anti-government, for months.
They see some men dressed in fatigues with dark paint and very much like a strike team, and that possibly to silence this dog, which has found their location, one of the marshals shoots and kills the dog.
When the dog uncovered the marshal's location, an agent shot it, and a gunfight ensued that killed 14-year-old Sam Weaver and a deputy U.S. Marshal named William Deegan.
The very next day, a team of 10 FBI agents and the hostage rescue team surround the cabin.
Sarah's mother, Vicky, took a fatal shot to the head as she held the family's 10-month-old baby in her arms. But outside the cabin, no one was aware Vicky was dead. The Weavers held out for a total of 11 days. After Vicky was shot, they believed they'd be killed if they stepped outside. The standoff ended only after Bo Greitz, a right-wing presidential candidate sympathetic to the Weavers' cause, negotiated a surrender.
So they're up there about an hour, and he comes back, and he says, "Boy, you guys really screwed that one up." I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "Randy's been shot, Harris has been shot, and Vicky's dead." So we just couldn't believe it.
Later investigations revealed that law enforcement had made a series of errors.
So you see this guy? We'll talk about this guy in a second.
Authorities on the ground communicated poorly with agents arriving from afar.
How did the government end up treating them like a group of armed terrorists?
So a lot of people, this is controversial because of so many reasons, but a lot of people rally behind this, rah, rah, rah. A lot of people will, they remember the thing. A lot of people will say that if you do any of that, then you're bad, right? And then there's the idea that people that have complete trust in the bureaucracy can study this. So that guy that I paused it there and was talking about, there's a recent interview for like 2.5, 3 hours, maybe 3.5 hours, almost 4 hours on the Team House last Friday. So we'll be talking about that on Friday on our weekly wrap-up show, because that was an epic conversation. And that guy was at Waco also. He's a writer and he wrote books about it. And, it happened and we got to be aware of it, but there's people that would ignore it and there's people that would embellish just the pieces they want. So anyway, the reason it's being brought up is because that was a siege that happened on the news in front of everybody, and it was had a tragic result, and this is the anniversary of it, of the ending of it. And these are the things that then created Oklahoma, right? So that's why people who would disregard it as, oh, you're saying, anybody that pays attention to this is a terrorist. Well, because of Oklahoma, they feel real justified in that position. So, are you paying attention to all this stuff? And then the people that would ignore all this stuff are the ones that are so blatant, or so vehemently interested in giving the government all firearms, all what do you call it, the monopoly on violence. Dog, why don't you just stay in one position all the time? feel like he's bored of this show. I feel like he's not a very good co-host. Gizzard dropped the 10-month membership deal in there. Appreciate that. People that are members of the channel make it possible for us to even do this, literally. That's what keeps us able to spend time on this, and not, I don't have to spend my time doing other things because of the Patreons, people that are channel members. Most people are essentially throwing a cup of coffee at us each month, $5. A couple of people are throwing lunch at us, $20. That accumulates, pays for all the servers, pays for all the software, and then gives me some time to do stuff like this and some of the other stuff we do on socials, keep the calendars up to date and that kind of thing. So definitely appreciate Gizzard flexing with the it's essentially a free super chat that they give you every once in a while as a channel member. So it's a great way for me to take a break and mention that. And if you'll notice down here, there's a scroll thing that's going. And in a minute, it'll say, our Patreons make it possible for us to spend time on projects like these. Thank you. Does that happen in real life? Because I know there might be a lag and that might be offered by a little bit. I wonder if that actually happens. Anyhow, we'll move on to our friend Tony.
Hey, it's Tony Simon. I'm going to take about 30 seconds to tell you about tonight's event. It's awesome. You should have been there. It's at Recall Range, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. You go to diversityshoot.com. You can click the link, go to Eventbrite, and buy your ticket. Or you can go to eventbrite.com and purchase a ticket yourself. It's $20. We're going to have pizza. We're going to have drinks. Well, soda. We're going to shoot guns, and we're going to have fun. We're also going to introduce you to Second Amendment organizations. So go to eventbrite.com and buy your ticket today. Hey, it's Tony Simon. I'm going to take about 30 seconds to tell you about tonight's event.
Oh, okay. I'll quit doing that then. It seems clever when I'm doing it here live, but I didn't really think about the lag.
Well, I think it's extremely dangerous and negligent, to be honest with you, because when you take away the parents' ability to educate their kids about something that's really, really important, like firearm safety, and our kids are going to get information from, it could be social media, it could be TikTok, it could be stuff like YouTube, or it could be, violent video games, that's what's going to form their early opinions of firearms, and it's going to give them bad information.
Ugh. So, I'm only saying because of the violent video game part, but this is Gun Owners Radio. So that's San Diego Gun Owners hosts a radio show every Sunday afternoon. They stream the live broadcast of the show. They had Matt or Derek on from KidSafe up in Oregon, and he's talking about, I'm assuming, the concept of when you take away education from schools, firearms awareness and safety education in the guise of public safety somehow, that the consequences are ignorance and recklessness and bad consequences. When he says violent video games, that's where I would say that the video games could easily add barriers, boundaries, functionality that requires safe gun handling, right? That doesn't, I don't care how violent a video game is, but since the video game is completely, every parameter of that environment is controlled, it could shoot less accurately if you handle the gun with improper safety. And something as simple as an extra keyboard control for going to a safe handling position and putting the gun into a safe position, and given those attributes better statistics in the game, or whatever the words are, it seems like a compromise and something that you could approach the industry with, and that would make the games potentially more challenging and more realistic, because it's pretty fake to be able to run around without any kind of awareness of gun safety, taking all that for granted, and then assume that you're so good. If these are supposed to be simulators, they're not, and if they're supposed to be realistic, they're not. They're games. So I wouldn't call them violent. That just gets people to challenge and defend, right? How about you call them out on being what they are, weak and lacking? They're not good games. So if they wanted to make their games actual realistic, or more difficult, then create challenges, create those things. I'll repeat myself. Create that gun handling as part of the game, a characteristic in the game. If you're a bad coder, if you can't do it, you're a bad coder. And if you're unwilling, you don't want your game to be better. Seems like something the industry could potentially, champion. But what do I know? I'm not a national level organization making millions of dollars with a staff to do theories like that. But otherwise, Derek is an individual who's teaching kids gun familiarization and safety through BB guns. He has like an inflatable BB gun thing that he sets up at like Cabela's, I think. Works in cooperation with a couple of different companies in the industry and places in Oregon and even California, I believe, now that California has made illegal any type of firearms awareness or familiarization. All right, next up is Battlefield Vegas, and this says, here is almost half of our Thompson M1A1 and M1928 submachine gun inventory. So let's see how many there are here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, maybe 17 going by the stocks alone. If there aren't any in there without stocks, there might be 1 or 2 in there without stocks that we can't see. But what do I figure? 15. So they have at least 30 Thompsons that are full auto Thompsons at Battlefield Vegas. So again, let's not take anything for granted here. First, they had to acquire 30 of these Thompsons. So did they get them as kits? Probably, because I know an importer. I probably do have pictures somewhere of Don's inventory, but potentially a lot of this is from Don's inventory, an importer I knew here in Tucson that had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Thompson kits, and I'm sure there was other people like Don. So people would buy these kits and either just put them into wall hangers on the wall, or SOTs would buy them. People, FFLs with a special operations tax who had the inclination would buy a kit and turn it into a post sample, a sample gun to show law enforcement an old Thompson. They could make them into full auto. Those would be doomed because of the Hughes Amendment in the 1968 or in the 1986 Firearms Owners Protection Act. Those would be doomed to only live with other SOTs. They could transfer them to another SOT and FFL, but they couldn't ever transfer them. So it's possible some of these came from those origins, and then every once in a while somebody would buy a kit and turn it into a semi-auto SBR. The problem with a Thompson kit is you can make it semi-auto by rebuilding it with semi-auto parts, let's say, but you're going to have a very short barrel, so it would have to be an SBR, or you'd have to make it so that the stock couldn't attach anymore and make it a pistol. So that might be a poll. Let's do that for a poll. Which would be your preferred? Assuming you have the interest in a Thompson, either the M1A1 or the 1928. Special bonus points if you know the difference between them besides the date. But we'll start a poll here. Which Tommy gun would you rather have? The rifle with longer barrel, which makes them look really stupid, or the pistol where you can never put a stock on it. Or SBR the thing to a semi-auto. Or sell the kit for a profit, and then you'll become an FFL. So boom, now you got a poll out there. I've talked to YouTube earlier today, and they said it's free. If you use the poll in the next 30 minutes, it's absolutely free. If you use the poll after 30 minutes, it's also free. So anyway, this is 15, 16, 17, maybe 20 at the most, but probably like 16 or 17 Thompsons. Now these are all full auto, wherever their origins are from. These are full auto Thompsons. These are setting in a massive vault. I've got a video of going through that vault back in 2014 when I did a tour of all the different machine gun places back then when they were kind of all starting up. And so there's 30 of these Thompsons. The reason they need 30 of them isn't because groups of 30 people come in and all want to shoot a Thompson at the same time, although that probably does happen. But if they, and that means you could probably go in there and have 30 people all grab a Thompson with an empty magazine and make a pose for some kind of amazing Thompson picture. But yeah, you could just do that by next time you go to Vegas if you wanted. But the reason they have 30 is because these things break all the time. They're 1918 tech, something like that. 1911 tech, something like that. So they break every once in a while. They got kind of a weird mechanism. They're an odd machine for sure. And although they're rugged, these get more use than any other gun ever. Think about a typical Thompson that might be used for training. And let's say even during World War II, you're going to have 100 people come through, a platoon come through. A training platoon is going to come through because it's effective to train about 100 people at a time. It's a classroom of people, let's say. You can run them all through. They're 10 at a time or whatever, 20 at a time. They're going to grab these Thompsons and they're going to shoot them. So, 20 people, 10 people shooting a couple of magazines through them. They shoot them. They go on to the next thing. Tomorrow they're doing push-ups. The day after that, they're learning how to eat or make their bed or something dumb. They're Marines. So the guns get cleaned by armorers, put back on a rack. Every once in a while, somebody comes by and inspects them, make sure they're still clean there. And then the next group comes in maybe a week later. And then how often are platoons going through? I don't know. Depends. If it's war, like all the time. But if not, once in a while. So these guns get shot like occasionally. Now let's talk about a gun that's getting issued to somebody. They're training with it a lot. And then they're shooting it, occasionally if they're doing something. Now if you fast forward to the war on terror and somebody knocking down doors, they might have carried around a Thompson for some reason. So how often is that thing getting used? A couple of dozen magazines a night. So maybe that one is going to get used as much. But think about Battlefield Vegas, and for $15 you can shoot a mag through this thing, and people are coming from all different countries, all different reasons: birthday parties, bachelor parties, bridal showers. I got struck it rich in a new financial venture or something. So, they're celebrating in Vegas. Somebody came to Vegas and won craps table and saw the sign. Hey, I've always wanted to shoot a Thompson. Those things are getting shot more than anything else is ever getting shot. So it's just neat. They're constantly breaking. They're constantly getting too hot. So Thompson's probably the more famous ones, one of the more popular ones, I'm assuming. And they just need this many for the rotation because they're going to have some of them sick and some of them, on the mend, and some of them coming back for duty, and some of them are just too hot. They've been shot all day. And then, of course, some people are probably like, I'd rather shoot a 1928 than an M1A1. Does anybody say what the difference was? Anyway, I just thought that was a cool picture. And if you're a content creator and you go to Vegas, you can ask them, can I go in your vault? And then guess what? You go in their vault and you film in their vault. So, you know what I'm saying? That doesn't cost nothing. Wonder how long a Thompson receiver can last before it stretches out or fails. Not that long. Well, I mean, they're rugged. They are made for war. So unlike some guns that are just turned full auto, this thing is designed to be full auto. But it did change. It did improve over time because they figured out stuff. But they're definitely not under any kind of horrible conditions other than probably being dirty and maybe hot. They're not getting dirt on them, and they're not getting water in them and anything like that. Here, they're not rusting out or anything, and they do have armorers that are constantly paying attention to them. But we talked with Circle 10 not Circle 10. M13 is a gunsmith in Vegas that we had on as an interview, I don't know, probably a year ago. And I don't know if I asked him specifically about the Thompsons, but I think I asked him about a couple of others because there is lifespan. All these guns have a lifespan. And what happens is when they fail, they'll re-weld them. They'll take them apart. They'll weld all the holes up. They'll do whatever needs to be done. And then re-drill all the holes, reharden it, and get them back in working order. Because of the way the ATF and the NFA works, they have to keep the receivers alive as long as possible, or keep the receivers alive, period, I guess. I'm going to take a second and see if, yep, rapid fire radio is going live over here. Oh man, we only got about 13 minutes. They're rushing me. So I'm going to go over here and add. Oh, yeah, look, let's see. Is Brooke still watching? Is Brooke still out there? Look, Brooke, here's what I'm trying to do right now. So here's this video, right? Hold on. Here is Cape Gunworks, and I can go to Cape Gunworks and get their link, right? So now I can go back to this video, and I'm looking at the inside of this video. I went to edit this video, and now I'm going to go to customization. And when I go to customization, I can have this thing redirect to somebody else's video. And if I go up here and post Toby's, it'll connect, right? But if I go over here and try to get a Great Start Shooting School and go to your lives and try to get something that's coming up, right? And grab your link, and then try to grab your link in here. See what happens? And that's that message I always show you. This is what you got to change somewhere. And here's where you change it. You go into your channel, and then somewhere down in this side, there's going to be settings. And then in settings, there's somewhere that'll say permissions, maybe, or community, maybe. Yeah, community. So under settings on the left, and then community, channels can direct to me. Channels I subscribe to can redirect to my content. And then you don't have to do this. You can put in just a few channels if you want. But essentially, by default, they don't want people to, I guess they don't want weirdos linking to people who don't want them linked to it or whatever. So they have that turned off. But, oh, dang, did I save it? Now I have to go do all that again. I'll do that off here. But essentially, that's what I try to do is link to somebody else's video after this one. Because, you know, we've got dozens and dozens and dozens of viewers that show up here. And we might as well pass them off onto somebody if we can. So if you feel like it, go in there and make that change. And then on Saturdays, we'll be able to do it. And then other day, like Friday nights, I can set it up to host people over to you. Oh man, I messed up. So let me quickly put, oh, I gotta go grab Toby's link again. So we'll have a quick commercial here so that you don't have to listen to me blab while I'm doing this.
GearWebsites.com is your source for firearms-based playing cards and books. We also have mugs, shirts, and posters with designs that we've made live. Of course, we have patches. Every Friday is Free Patch Friday. We appreciate your support. Thank you for shopping at GearWebsites.com.
All right, I should have put on a longer commercial. So now I'm putting Toby's link in, clicking on Toby's, click and save. And now what'll happen is when this video ends, it'll push you all over to Toby's video, which is a good time for me to mention that a really good show is Rapid Fire Radio that happens every Wednesday after this show. We do this as an opening act for that show. And it's it's a gun shop out of Massachusetts, and Toby, one of the owners, does this radio show. They simulcast it over onto the YouTubes here and onto Twitch and Rumble and other places, I think. But they pay attention to the chats. They answer the questions because they're behind the enemy lines. They're dealing with all kinds of issues like 4420. But they're capable, or Toby's capable of, talking about 2A stuff. He's also been around guns for a long time. He owns the gun shop, so talks about guns real comfortably as well. And, kind of jumps between being an instructor, gun shop owner, somebody who enjoys training and going to classes and stuff and hosting instructors, and then hunting and going to industry events and being part of the community in lots of different ways. So it's a great channel and a great show to support. So yeah, that'll start in about 8 minutes, but I think we got a couple of more minutes to jump around a little bit here. M. Gabriel is saying, did you see the armory of Thompsons they found in Ukraine? No, not that specifically, but I understand that Ukraine is one of the places for climate or for strategic positioning that Soviets placed a lot of their archive munitions. So I wouldn't be surprised if how many we find out about, is going to be a question, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's a whole ton of stuff. If you think about the movie Lord of War, there's a reason that guy comes from Ukraine and all his guns were coming from Ukraine. There's She Fires out there. Welcome. Hosting the Sunday live shows. Eventually I'll be able to get to one of those live. Okay, so then we'll keep digging through and hopefully we'll get to the end of these before Cape Gunworks starts up here. But anyway, Battlefield Vegas, very cool place. They are one of many full auto places. When you go to Vegas, don't forget them as a resource. As a person who's just interested in guns, you can pull triggers on a lot of stuff. If you have any kind of content that you're creating, let them know. They are competing with other people in Las Vegas for international coverage. They appreciate coverage. So let them know, and you'll be surprised how generous they can be. So, you can definitely get content when you go to these places. All right, so now we got Walk Talk America.
Hi, I'm a gun-owning therapist, and I'm working to bridge the gap between firearms ownership and mental health care so that we can cross the chasm that we've imposed upon ourselves. At Walk the Talk America, our mission is to prevent firearm suicide, but we really want to get upstream from that and keep a lot of the despondency from happening in the first place by getting care. What does care look like? Well, coming into counseling is certainly one angle. We believe that firearms owners are largely afraid to come into counseling because they don't want their rights restricted. So in order to combat some of these policies that have that adverse effect, like red flag laws, we need data. We lack data. So what Walk the Talk America has done is we put together a survey. We're going to send that survey out to gun owners. You can access it by clicking the link below, or if you're on TikTok or Instagram, go to our bio and click on that link. Together we can compile some decent data, oppose a lot of these policies, and get care to people who need it the most. Thank you.
A lot of good stuff in there, but
I'm a gun-owning therapist.
Presented by Jake. So first off, what the hell is with this shirt, dude? Get a solid color shirt or move your dang transcription, because that's too much going on. Nobody can read any of that. But he has a lot of good stuff there. He's trying to get you to work on that poll. So if you want to do that, participate in that, go for it. Spread the word if you're inclined. But I like the whole approach to explaining Walk the Talk America. I'm also going to encourage people to take some of the stuff that he's included in this quick description of their plan and use those as descriptors when you're promoting their project, because too often, suicides are left out of the equation completely, but the other side, because of that ignorance and unawareness, not ignorance because people are stupid, but ignorance because people could give a shit about stuff that doesn't affect them. So there's suicides of certain people aren't bothering them. They're not obligated to know about them. The antis use that fact to manipulate. So what Jake is offering here is, with Walk Talk America, is an alternative to that. A challenge to the notion, right, that we aren't doing anything. So these are the things to champion. Of course, the poll is the specific thing right here, but it's an opportunity again to talk about Walk Talk America and that concept of a challenge to they do nothing and they would suggest we do nothing. When in actuality, we've got quite a bit going on, and their stuff is typically twisted towards getting it to be a healthcare issue. so that they can put it on healthcare, make it a government thing, make it more reason to have healthcare as a government thing in their minds, but also to ignore the police and the societal. The societal stuff is the consequences of bad policy. The police stuff is, other than police chiefs who are appointed by the elected executive branch, except for the police chiefs, all law enforcement sees that this is an issue of sentencing and enforcing. And they don't want to bring that up. When you create the bad policy and you allow the effects of that bad policy to, bloom or to get bad, they don't want to let that message come out. They insist on putting it into the medical realm, where the physicians who get paid to do research and to justify this position, justify the position. Amazing, right? So Jake and Walk Talk America are an alternative to that. And again, that's a position that doesn't get championed enough on our side. And we could have more than one organization, right? Compressor Association in on the kind of a version of the tax stamp. A lot going on here. It's a tax stamp, messed with it to taxation with a vacation. So now you got to know what a stamp is. Oh, my internet. And then once you know what a tax stamp is, you got to see what they've done to it, which is clever. And then for some reason, they juxtaposed it on top of a suppressor, like an image of a suppressor back there, which makes it super hard to see. I don't know if that was a mistake or if that was some kind of just trying to make it difficult to read, but whatever. But it is kind of neat. Let's see. FPC announced today that it has filed new Second Amendment lawsuit challenge gun license delays of 6 months or more in Boston. So, okay. Be curious to see what Toby thinks, if this is, an important thing when they've got 4420 coming. Is it is it a good strategy to do more than one attack, or is this because they feel comfortable that we have enough challenge on 4420 that they can flank them or something? Maybe if you don't got a fork in 4420, you want to get something with your fork in it. Boston Police Commissioner sued over concealed carry. So this is the same firearms policy, talking about the same thing in a little bit different way. Here they're just saying, here's a picture of the bench and some boring pictures of text from Twitter. From what I understand, when you take a picture of a Twitter and just put it on Instagram, it makes people read the Instagram, which puts more time on your clock on Instagram and makes your Instagram channel better. So if you want to make your Instagram channel better, take pictures of things people have to read. That'll make them stay on your picture longer by necessity. And then Instagram will they'll interpret that as they care about your page. So I'm not saying it's a marketing trick or a tactic. I'm just saying it's a marketing tactic and trick. So here it is in two different ways. And how long have I been sitting here talking about it? So FPC can't get mad. I'm sitting here watching their stuff. So Mom at Arms was the first one to post about TIG, but I'll just keep moving on because I got her post coming up here too. But that's super interesting. So then we have Kalash Bash is coming up in 2069. So 2024 is the next one, and they're already getting ready for that, which means that they didn't do one this year. They did that 1980s weapons version one this year. So is that interest waning? Is that costs too high? What's the reason we're not seeing the continuation? This is the first of many. This isn't a cancellation as much as by the way, we're doing this mid next year and not in October. You know what I mean? Like this is, hey, we're doing it just next year. So on the other side, you've got Girl and a Gun. Their 12th annual convention will be next July, right, in 2024, the election year. And that'll be their 12th convention. It's sold out within 24 hours. So they have 700 participants next year, and it's sold out in 24 hours. Does that mean they're not planning for enough growth? Because seems like they could have had that number to be 800. Maybe it would have lasted 2 days. So I like to see that, but I'd like to see them start to grow now, because this is a couple of years now with, around that number of participants. I can imagine it's hard to add hundreds more, but I'm just challenging them. Why not? So anyway, that's interesting how some events are shutting down, and I'm assuming has to do with lack of participation, where Garland a gun, the opposite. Tactical games, this one's pretty interesting. So I was trying to figure out where this is. It says Pahrump, Nevada, so I kind of figure I know where it is. So I'm trying to think of where this range is out there. Oh, I think I do know now. Oh, I'll shut up. So this is at what used to be called Front Sight, and now is called, I'll think of it in a minute if it says it on here. So anyway, I thought this was kind of neat because of the aerial view of that range. So this is the rifle range, and then what used to be the only base. I've got a whole bunch of videos filmed in these bays, and tons of them actually. So we used to hang out here all the time when we could just go out there when we wanted. And then it grew quite a bit since then, but this originally was like the far out bays out there. Anyway, I just thought that was a cool picture. Looks like rapid fire radio is starting up. What's your opinion of these little pre-opening things with the countdowns? Who's going to get the first thumbs over here? Here, I'll give you a link so you can catch up. Oh, do we got audio today? Move your head over. Move your head over. Oop, I hope I spelled it right. Went kind of fast. Dog laying on me. It's difficult to type. All right, we'll turn him down in case he starts talking. All right, so now I'll try to whip through here. Oh, no, he's not getting any audio, so it'll take him a minute to figure it out. So we got that picture from the tactical games, and the other reason I posted this is the tactical games are pretty hardcore, and look at all the different companies that are supporting them. And when people tell you about competition shooting and stagnation and blah, 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 are they paying attention to things like the tactical games and its popularity in a time when other things are sitting around? And who's going to be, all these new gun owners, what are they going to go to? Are they going to start collecting? I hope they do. But are they going to, go to, I don't know, SAS? Maybe. Some people dig cowboy shooting. Is there going to be something else? Like, how come there isn't 1930s? Like, if there's single action shooters for cowboy dress up, how come there isn't 1930s, like gangster era stuff with Tommy guns and old single, the old single action metal single stack guns? But I'm sure there's something out there, but no national level participation. So anyway, it's neat to see people bringing that in. So next we got Rebecca. It says Feinstein, Pelosi, McConnell, Biden. It's almost as if those who we are told are running the country are not healthy or mentally competent enough to run a vacuum cleaner, let alone a country, which leads us to question, if they aren't running things, who is? Interesting that Rebecca's saying that, and then it says, if you know, you know. We've reached the point that past any of this being theory. So it's interesting because isn't she not in Congress right now? But that's the problem with term limits. When people yell about term limits, you got to worry about who's behind the scenes, who's not being elected. Gizzard, who may or may not be out there right now, I believe he is out there at one time, giving us the super chat earlier, the member super chat. Thanks for that. Posting on Every Second Matters on the 2nd of each month. On the 2nd of each month, people who've been interested in doing so will do something about what our Second Amendment protects, either do something to focus on it. Open carry, take someone to the range, hold an event, do something on YouTube, create a live chat, or create a post on a social platform. And the idea is that the Second Amendment exists all the time, and it sometimes there's challenges to it. At other times, we kind of take it for granted and enjoy it. And by keeping a consistent, persistent awareness of it, we kind of keep our communication channels open for those times when we need to rally the troops. Because we've had a lot of challenges lately, but when we're sitting at times without challenge, what happens? Everybody just sort of disappears from, they just sort of wander away from each other. So it was an opportunity. It was a campaign to offer a way for people to stay connected who may or may not be all that interested in what they're doing day to day, but know that they're, allies when fundamental things are challenged. So it also is an opportunity to tie people there who didn't necessarily show up to each other's daily conversations. Gizzard is listening and working, he says. It's not Labor Day, so you're allowed to work again. And I don't know how many more we got in here. Pets for Vets doing a thing about National VJ Day, the surrender of Japan on September 2nd, 1945. I used to commemorate those in the calendar, but then I quit doing most of the war stuff. I don't know, it just got full. We had enough gun stuff. Give me some feedback if I should put those kind of things, like the ends of wars, essentially, sometimes the beginnings of wars. The Appleseed Project is an awareness and practice organization. It says, good evening and welcome to the September 2023 edition of the Liberty Poll. Each month, Project Appleseed brings you tips, history, and event spotlights, merchandise, and more. This month's issue explores equipment tips from Old Dog, the Battle of Yorktown, event highlights from something, and more. Read about it, and they give you a link. Remember, you can have the Liberty Poll delivered to your inbox every month by subscribing. So I have a couple of resources that I use. Some of them are lame and some of them are better than others. And Liberty Poll is a newsletter that you can subscribe to. And they're there to create awareness of history and, pretty much awareness of history and encourage people to continue their marksmanship. I can't put the audio on because it'll copyright, but here's a Tippmann 22 long rifle Gatling gun. It's not as good as the old ones, but this is essentially one of my favorite things ever. Favorite guns ever. But this is a modern one. This is a new one, I'm pretty sure. So I'm also going to start seeing these things. They're all over the place, so they must be shipping them now. But if any sugar mamas out there looking for Christmas gifts, this is what I'm looking for. One of these. I need a couple of them, but one at a time is fine. This is Mike doing his Every Second Matters post with his fancy boot grips and Bark at the Moon patch. Looks like Toby's on the air and running. So this is Machine Gun Nest, really cool range and gun shop out of Maryland, doing a post about their date nights. And always good to see the youngins and the new shops moving things along. I don't think date nights are anything new at the range, but it's neat to see the evolution of them and the continuance of them on the Instagrams. And if your range isn't doing it, it's easy enough to mention it. And then if they started doing it, what would happen, right? So it brings them more business, and it's an excuse for couples to get to the range together. It's win-win. Faster Saves Lives is a great organization. Again, we're talking about ways to keep informed and updated on what's going on and not hype let's keep the ball bouncing back and forth. Let's keep you struggling first, stress you out so that you're struggling to just drop $30 to hope that it will just end. Instead, here's some actual things that are being done and establishing precedent to challenge the other side who would suggest safety is ignorance and abstinence. So Faster says, did you get Faster Saves Lives newsletter in your inbox this morning? If not, be sure to join our mailing list. It's also an interesting marketing thing to mention to people about your mailing list, or I mean your newsletter, so that they're aware of it, right? So that's a couple of them. Another one I recommend is the NSSF newsletter. It's a really good one. You can actually choose from like a bullet point, a checklist of all the different ones you want to get from NSSF. So I don't know how many people are following my sister's keeper, a firearms instructor. I think she says in here how long she's been doing it, but for 7 years. So I've been watching people come and go, and I talk about the cycles, and I talk about the cyclic nature of this whole stuff and the patterns and this and that, and what's new is old and that kind of thing. So here's where you see the cycle of life. You've got someone who came into the thing, and this is completely documented on her social. Hopefully she doesn't take down her social, or maybe if somebody like Professor Yamane does some kind of research on it or something to talk about the concept, because she's just representative of lots of other people who've done this cycle or this progression. It may be a different pace and at a different a different level, but or to a different level of success or something. But essentially, she documented her interest and then her, her development, I guess you could say, interest in becoming an instructor. Well, at least I don't pay attention to her talking about, or I don't recall anything her talking about long-term goals with it. I just assumed, I suppose, that it would be something that most people take on as a way of life type of thing, especially when they get to the level of instructor and whatnot. And some of the other projects that she's done to share instructing with other people outside of her actual realm, like outside of her physical location there. So anyway, just interesting to see that she's gone, I guess you could say, full circle from interest and exploration to, I guess you'd say, like understanding and mastery. I don't know if that's the right word. And then sharing, and then instructing and coaching, and then encouraging and mentoring, and then doing some other stuff. And I don't know what kind of experiences she had or didn't have, or expectations she had or didn't have, or what goals she had or didn't have. But essentially, she says she's quitting as of September and then starting her candle company. So completely, 180. And I don't know, when you've been around long enough to see enough of these things happen, when people say they're leaving, that's a whole different thing than when people just never show up again. So interesting. And then, of course, I mentioned somebody, was it whoever the hell, somebody had already posted about this. I know that a couple of the girl channels I follow are posting about this. So it's obviously going to have ripples and repercussions in the same way that she inspired and led people to become instructors, or to become, more open, or to become, to share their experiences or whatever. How many will take the example and say, oh yeah, we're allowed to duck out, right on, tapping out. And then what'll happen, because usually these things have consequences. So I'm not dooming anything. I'm just saying what's be interesting to see. And it's a fairly prominent example of the cycles I talk about all the time. Defense Data saying, so if they hosted a date night at the range that specialized in automatic guns, would that be a speed dating? That's excellent. Let's see. Also, Defense Dad says Appleseed is a great program. Our range in whatever the host here's in Nebraska. So I guess you're saying that they host stuff there in Nebraska. All right, so this is How I Carry, and she's doing, I guess, a parody of the frustration that people have with their perceived ability to use firearms on the internet and on social platforms. Then we got Jenny posting a thing about coaching, just a great infographic. I'll just whip through some of these. Tony, he's always doing stuff. He's shooting gun real fast. Dragon Man has his 31st annual machine gun shoot coming. This is an example of the 400,000 rounds that they'll shoot at that machine gun shoot. Recreationally, a bunch of people in Colorado Springs over 2 days will shoot 400,000 rounds of ammunition recreationally on a guy's private property because it's the end of the year. And they'll have an opportunity to fiddle with all kinds of cool stuff, just like at the industry day at the range at SHOT Show. The scale of our industry and the freedoms that we have, the opportunities that we have, nothing lasts forever. There's great times, there's bad times, there's awesome times, there's whatever. That's 400,000 rounds. Well, that's probably a portion of 400,000 rounds of ammo. It's a little different when your uncle gives you 400,000 rounds of ammo. There's consequences to that. You're usually going somewhere and you got to start dodging some other ones coming back towards you. And when your uncle gives you 400,000 rounds of ammo, it's all one flavor. Look at how many different boxes there are there, how much that represents, how many guns that represents. Think about, we know our friend Guy 45 went out there and loaded mags one year for a day, him and his kid. And think about how many thumbs that represents, all the thumb muscles there. So everybody knows what I'm talking about there, knows what I'm talking about there. American, or a girl in a gun, decided to write on an American flag to say happy birthday to the American flag. I didn't know about this one, so I'll be adding it to the thing. But guess what? Mine won't be written on an American flag. Then it says character is not made in crisis, it's revealed. So nice... what is that saying, I guess? Nice perspective on it. I gotta hurry up because I'm corking Toby pretty hard here. So one of the things I'd looked at earlier was that tactical games at Front Sight. One of the things that people don't know about Front Sight is almost the entire underneath of Front Sight has these tunnels. And there's a couple of courses you could take at Front Sight if you were at the advanced level that let you get down into these tunnels and do some different kind of work down there. But essentially, they were designed for, let's just say, units and organizations that might need to train in this type of environment. And this just gave them an opportunity to do it. So when I went up there, I can't remember the first time, in like 2006 probably, was the first time we started going to Front Sight. They took us down and were showing us all this stuff. So yeah, I've been playing around in them tunnels for a long, long time. They're a lot of fun and they're cool. So they're underneath of everything. So even if the desert's super hot, it's just neat to run down there. And looks like the tactical games has you running around with all the lights off down there. So pretty cool. This is some leather. Is Ozzy still out there? Is Ozzy out there today? I think I see Ozzy. So this was in honor of Ozzy and everybody else who likes leather work. This one's on Ed's Manifesto's channel. Just crazy leather work. Really, really dig it. Tim posting some stuff, a bunch of his Yankee stuff. I mean, that was ours, and I've got that one too, I guess. But I think I have one of these. I have one of these. I don't have all this other stuff, I don't think. Foss showing off his fancy $60 worth of hot hamburger and a big thing of fries. I'd eat that thing of fries. I'm just saying. I'd work into that fries. Clearing the Chamber is saying blah, blah, blah. So Biden is saying about universal background checks. So she's saying this is clearing the chamber out of Texas. She's saying we already have background checks through NICS. He's looking for a registry. Red flag laws will be abused. Safe storage is already required. Gun manufacturers don't encourage people to murder. So I don't know. There was some reason I posted this one. I can't remember what it was, but we're definitely seeing people get mad about this. It's great to see alternative voices and opinions on besides just my rights, right? So give them some points, give them some angles so that different people can understand why these are offensive in so many ways. So the engaged in business thing is going out. Of course, gun policy's got to show up, got to show us right up somebody's nose, look at their eyeballs, and even in the mouth. So thanks, gun policy, for doing that. I'm going to uncheck that one. I don't like it when they're constantly doing that. I could live my whole life without seeing up that guy's nose. The Titan missile museums are 9 stories deep, and they held a 40 megaton intercontinental ballistic missile. So these things are pretty awesome, and this is what it looked like when they were building them. They built 18 of them here in Tucson, 18 of them in Kansas, and 18 of them in Arkansas. And all 54 of them were built in 3 years. That was their shout out to American labor. Essentially, they would dig a hole 9 stories deep and then build a building, which was made concrete made out of railroad ties as the rebar, to build the giant silo building, and then they would infill it and put the land back on top of it. So they would just dig this giant hole, build a building, and then fill in the hole again. That's how they would build the 9-story deep silo, and they did that 54 times in 3 years. Super cool. That's the beginning of the internet too, when they connected all those together. So this is a scene from Rambo: First Blood Part 2. One of the better movies. Well, one of the first good. Well, it was good. The first movie was good. This is always neat. Only Marines get to do that usually. Sometimes Navy gets to do that. So 2A cops, it says, I like my tamales the same way I like my guns, sold from the back of a truck or the back of a Buick in the parking lot of a strip mall by some shady dude with poor command of the language and completely without any government involvement. So I guess that's funny. Then we've got Mike Pannone.
We have about 5 choices.
This is Mike Pannone, Delta Force, and some coach, I guess, from sports.
In our life, we can be bad at what we do. I mean, we can be average at what we do. I mean, we can be good at what we do, which probably is God's expectation for whatever ability He gave us. Or we can be excellent, or we can be elite. And everybody has a choice as to what they want to do and how they want to do that. But if you're going to be excellent or elite, you got to do special things. You have to have special intensity. You have to have special focus. You have to have a special commitment and drive and passion to do things at a high level and a high standard all the time. And it doesn't matter what God-given ability that you have, that probably can make you good. But without the rest of it, I'm not sure you ever get excellent or elite. And that's the part that we're trying to get to. Now, we have about 5 choices, in our life.
So giving us some insight, first off, on the dog being bad. You can tell he's being bad because I'm corking into Cape Gun Works' show. So, but that's sort of the insight from Delta on focus and goals. Now we have Come and Talk It, talking to Tim Kennedy at their shop, I'm assuming, but always a good, it's always take a chance or an opportunity, I guess, to plug the Come and Talk It radio show out of Texas. We've been listening to that one for a long time now. They changed the format up a bit. It's more of a podcast now. Gun Prom is coming up. I need to put that on the calendar. Dang, actually, I put a bunch of calendar stuff out there, and I don't think I put Gun Prom on it. So I think there's more than one, though, so it's not your last opportunity. Speaking of the 19 or the 45 ACP and those Thompsons, this was a box of this is a box of ammo that is designed to be a riot cartridge for the 45 ACP. So it is, what is it? It's some kind of 120 pellets of number 8 birdshot crimped into a 45 ACP housing. And then it's a little bit, I guess, longer than a regular 45 ACP, but they could adapt it to be used in a Thompson. And this way, I guess the idea was you could full auto shoot less lethal rounds at prisoners or something. So, you know, times were different in the 20s. But that's a box of ammo that was up for auction last night at Pot of Gold. Kind of missed out on that one because that was last night. I didn't see what it went for, though.
They have a really hard time.
That's Clearing the Chamber, doing an interview with Walk the Talk America. You can go watch that if you want. That's the National Cowboy Museum with a leather-wrapped guitar. Again, in case Ozzy was out there. I think I also hit DJ with this one, so I cover both DJ and Ozzy with a leather-wrapped guitar. I think I've hit more people or covered more people with this one than Gizzard has with his show, so I win this week. But Gizzard is welcome to step up to the challenge with his show on Friday. You can check that out. What I'm going to recommend you check out, though, is Cape Gun Works. They're live over here right now with a better show than this one. So you got the rip-off version of what's going on over there. We'll pat this dog on the head. We'll say thanks, everybody, for watching us live. I'll cut this one. Well, it's long, so I'll cut it long. And we'll put a quick commercial up for our store. Appreciate the people that grab stuff from our store. I'm heading up on this week to grab posters. So everybody that bought posters might actually get their stuff shipped because I'm going up there to get the posters. This dog is going to hang out with 2 Boston Terriers while I get the posters. Who's got 2 little tiny paws and is stoked to hang out with Boston Terriers? This guy. This is the second worst host I've had on the show. All right, well, thanks everybody for joining us. We'll be back to pick you up later.
GearWebsites.com is your source for firearms-based playing cards and books. We also have mugs, shirts, and posters with designs that we've made live. Of course, we have patches. Every Friday is Free Patch Friday. We appreciate your support. Thank you for shopping at GearWebsites.com.